We are constantly being taken in. Taken in by certain attitudes, certain assumptions about the way things are. And it's these assumptions which limit us. It's these assumptions which keep us asleep. It's certain assumptions which keep us from optimizing the full potential of our being. And this is what the next verse addresses. Verse 235. The duality of the world, inner and outer, and things subject to causation. By distinctly understanding what they are, one is established in imagelessness. So this seems quite technical, doesn't it? It seems quite philosophical even. But the last phrase gives us the true intent of this verse. The true intent of this verse is to become established in imagelessness. The image refers to the sensory image, the image of the world presented to us by the senses. So to be established in imagelessness is to be established in that reality which is not dependent on the senses. And this is what the enlightenment practitioner is about. This is what we're doing as enlightenment practitioners. We're constantly working with that tendency to get sucked in to these notions about a world, an external world, and an individual here. This is what the first item on this list is: the duality of the world. The duality of the world. One of the assumptions we have, one of these fundamental limiting assumptions we have is, there's a me here experiencing a world out there. And there's a relationship between the two. A very emotional, deep relationship consisting of things I like about it and things I don't like about it. That's the duality of the world. There's a dynamic getting set up here. And we get sucked into these likes and dislikes. And we want to get more of what we like and avoid more of what we don't like. And so on. This is the normal dynamic of being. It's a limiting one. It's a dynamic which as enlightenment practitioners we bypass, we step aside from. More will be said about that in the next verse, which is to do with our habit energy, our moods. So the duality of the world, inner and outer. There's stuff going on out there, there's stuff going on in here. Somehow we think that what we've got going on in here is more personal than what's going on out there. We categorize what's going on in here as more personal, don't we? There's more to do with me. This is another assumption we can look at. My thoughts, my dreams. In what way is this any more my world than the world out there? My dreams have nothing to do with me. My thoughts have nothing to do with me. Any more than my experience of the apparent sensory world has anything to do with me. It's all stuff that is going on. If my thoughts, my dreams were anything to do with me, they would be heavenly in nature. I would be flying on wings of music and beautiful scents. But that's not what's going on in my dreams, that's not what's going on in my thoughts. What's going on in my dreams and thoughts are anxieties and fears and mundane, tedious stuff. Not all the time, but there's definitely a strong characteristic of that. The point I'm making is, though, there's a flow of stuff going on. We can call it inner or outer, internal or external, and none of it's got anything to do with my true nature. And my true nature is of the nature of the attention. Again, I'll say more about this in the next verse. So the duality of the world, inner and outer, and things subject to causation. This isn't just a random list, is it? The duality of the world, as I said, is to do with our likes and dislikes based on the notion of an individual here and an external world there. And this is coalesced further into notions of inner and outer. Somehow this inner is more, we regard as more me, more intimate than what's going on out there. And things subject to causation. In Buddhism, causation normally refers to what's sometimes called the wheel of life, the cycle of conditioned co-production. And that's going into more detail about how our likes and dislikes lead to limited being. They lead to sickness, old age and death. So things subject to causation refers to the dynamic between the so-called individual and the so-called external world. It also refers to a consolidation of these two, a consolidation of the external nature of the world. It's something which has always been there through billions of years of evolution. Or if you believe that God made it, well, you believe that God made it a long time ago. It's been there a long time. And the individual, I come from my mother's womb so many years ago. My mother and father provided my ancestry based on the ancestry of their parents and grandparents and so on. Or you might believe in past lives. We've been going on for incalculable millennia. So this is causation. This is the idea that there's an established order that's been going on for eons. We believe in this, don't we? It is a limiting belief. It's ignoring the power of consciousness. Consciousness, as we know from our dreams, can create whole worlds, whole histories, in a second, in an instant. But consciousness seems to want to hide from itself, to the point that it can even argue that it doesn't really exist. Quite an extraordinary thing. It puts itself out of the picture altogether. When it becomes aware of something, this cup for example, awareness disappears and there's only the cup. It's extraordinary. There's only the taste, there's only the cup, there's the tea, the taste of the tea. It's extraordinary. consciousness has disappeared. And yet, it's consciousness or awareness that's doing it all the time. That's behind this multi-sensory show which inspires infinite spectrums of feeling and drama. It's so extraordinary, and we forget this extraordinary thing, and we forget the extraordinary nature of this happening. But as enlightenment practitioners, we remember it once again. We look at what's going on, and we're told by distinctly understanding what is going on, distinctly understanding the duality of the world, inner and outer causation, we can become established in imagelessness. Now, this phrase, distinctly understanding, I'm not sure the translation has quite hit the mark here, because what we're understanding is the discriminations that we make. This process that is described in the first part of the verse, the duality of the world, inner and outer causation, this is all to do with the process of discrimination. We discriminate our world out there, we discriminate ourselves, we discriminate our likes and dislikes. And we discriminate inner and outer, and we discriminate not only individual objects and entities, but a whole history, a whole chain of associations connected with these objects. So I think this phrase doesn't really mean by distinctly understanding, but by understanding the discrimination that's going on, because this is the very mechanism of consciousness. It distinguishes things, it makes distinctions, it discriminates. And when we see this, when we truly see this, then we've freed ourselves to some extent from the process. We are no longer getting sucked into it. We are no longer losing our awareness in it. We are coming back to awareness, coming back to the true nature of our attention. The attention which is always getting sucked here and there is always getting hijacked. This attention is a very wonderful and beautiful thing. It's no longer getting sucked into images, no longer getting sucked into sensory representations. We come back to realization of its amazing, infinite, peaceful nature. And we keep doing this. We keep coming back to becoming established. We keep coming back to imagelessness. We become more and more established in imagelessness. This is the work of the enlightenment practitioner.